Well, here we are again. This is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. Are you content today? Contentment is one of the things that we don't find very much of in the world today. Are you content with where you are? Are you content with what you have? Are you content, period? Or do you allow your mind to disturb you of your contentment? Contentment is when you dwell in the house of the Lord, or you dwell in the favor of the Lord, or you dwell in the Lord day and night. And that's where contentment is. Contentment is in that place. Now, Joseph, in chapter 39 of the book of Genesis, is a man that is content. Let me show you something that happened. This man, Joseph, was a young man. He had 11 brothers. There was 12 of them. Joseph came down seeking his brothers, was sent over there by his father with some camels laden down now, or some donkeys laden down with goods. And he didn't just walk there empty-handed. And he brought his brothers these things. And he had to leave the sheep that he had to do what his daddy asked him to do. His daddy said, you go find your brothers. And I want to know how they're doing, where they are, and how they're doing, what they're doing, and all this and that. And he was sent over there to do that and to carry them some wares. And then his brothers were jealous of him because he had revealed to them that he had a dream that one day all these sheaves was up there, and these other sheaves, and then there was this little sheaf, and all these big sheaves had to bow down to this little sheaf. Well, God gave him a picture of what his life was going to be like and where he was going to end up. So Joseph, in a big sense of the word, knew that if he stayed close to God, it didn't matter where he ended up, he would end up happy. He would end up in the right place. So his brothers plotted against him. They cast him into a pit. Some other people, Ishmaelites, came along and they found him. They took him out of the pit and headed down to Egypt. And as they did, they were going to, they took Joseph and they were going to sell him as a slave. They were looking for money. All they were interested in was money. They didn't care who Joseph was. They didn't care anything about him. All they cared about is they knew they could see dollars and cents. By the way, that's kind of like me talking a few minutes ago about somebody stealing my trailer last month and just driving off with it. And they didn't care about me. They didn't care whether I live or die. They didn't care whether I eat, whether I have lights on, or whether I don't. They didn't care anything about me or my soul or my family or anything. All they cared about was making themselves happy, pleasing their own self at the hurt of another. And this was the case right here with Joseph's brother. And another thing is, they had this little thing called jealousy. Jealousy is a killer. Be careful of it. They were jealous because their daddy made him a coat of many colors. Listen, none of those boys was hurting for anything. They had plenty. They had over there whatever that they wanted. They didn't have a need for anything. Their daddy owned it, and their daddy divided it amongst them. Said, go do what you want. By the way, if you'll notice here in verse somewhere, they were gone over to Dothan. They were supposed to be over there working in a field or doing something. They had gone down to the city. What you reckon they went down there for? I can tell you what they went down there for. They went down there to do mischief. They went down there to do no good. They went down there to get the spoils of the wicked and the women of the wicked. And they had flocks too, that they were out there with big flocks. Joseph was over there with the little flock. Listen, if you're going to have a big flock, you got to get seed from somewhere. You got to get the good seed. And Joseph was over there raising the good ones, raising the ones without spot, without blemish, and getting them ready to come and add them to their brother's flock and put them in so they would have good stock. All right. Now they plotted against Joseph, and they threw him down. They cast him in a pit. Joseph was taken up. He was sold into Egypt for a very small amount. The Midianites sold him, verse 36 of chapter 37. And the Midianites sold him unto Egyptian, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, and a captain of the guard. Wow. Hey. This is really ironic. He's a captain of the guard. Captain of the guard of what? Of some soldiers, of a band of soldiers, or the prison, or something. But he is the captain of the guard. And Joseph is sold to him. And Potiphar finds out that Joseph has a perfect countenance about him. He has a perfect, pleasant, and he's intelligent, and he's honest, and he's where he is because he was stole away for a few pennies, starting out with a jealousy, and then stole away. And then, look, Joseph was brought down to Egypt, verse 1 of chapter 39. He was brought down to Egypt, and he was sold to this officer, Potiphar, the captain of the guard in Egypt, brought him in the hands from the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither, or there. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, Potiphar of Egypt. Listen. He was a prosperous man. Get that? Do you get it? He didn't have a penny. He'd been stripped of his beautiful coat that his daddy made him. He didn't have a covering to put over him. And the cold nights over there in that land, you needed a covering. And in the hot days over there, you needed the same covering you wore at night to keep from being cold, to keep the sun from burning you up during the day. And so he was stripped of that. He was stripped no money. He was sold on an auction block to another man. He didn't have a right to say what he was going to do or not do. The other man was over him. And God says, right here, the Lord says this, that he was a prosperous man. You know how he was prosperous? He was prosperous in contentment. He had perfect content. He had perfect peace. And he said, and his master saw that the Lord was with him. And the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. Wow. Do I want to be there? Do you want to be there? Yes, we do. That's where we want to be, in the place of contentment. How do you get there? Put all of your trust in God, none of it in the world. Don't trust the world. You cannot trust the world. The world will steal from you, rob you, take you, beat you, leave you for dead, sell you into slavery, throw you in a pit, care not anything about your soul, care not for you whatsoever, any way, shape, or form. The world is only interested in themselves. If you don't believe that, man, pay a man his week's wages before his week starts and see if he shows up.